can send me a request. All right, got it. Hey, Francisco, I think you're in.
Okay, I'm going to turn my phone all the way down, and we'll just talk through here.
Yeah, right. Hey, everyone. We have Francisco with us.
Hey, everyone.
Just give a shout out if you guys can hear us properly. Just want to check.
On Instagram,
Just give a shout out if you guys can hear us properly. Just check.
yeah, I think the live stream on. Are you still live? Oh yeah, you are.
Yeah. I just wanted to check. We don't have that echo this time. We had it last time, if you remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the screen on my end changed. I can only see you. I don't see myself anymore.
Can you send a join in request once again?
Sure.
Yeah. You in?
No, not yet. Did you accept it?
Yeah, I did accept it. Okay, I'm sending you an invite. Just a second.
Oh, okay.
You want me to restart this one?
Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah, I'll just
I'll go
restart.
ahead and exit,
Yeah.
and you can restart.
Yeah. Okay, I just started it once again. See if you can send a join in request.
Okay. Okay, I just sent it.
Got that. I accepted it. Do you see yourself?
I do not know. Here, let me request again. Should we do it the other way? Should I start and ask you to join?
You can do that as well. It works for
Okay,
me.
let me try that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going live. Okay.
Sent your request.
Okay, accepted.
And I just see you.
Yeah, that's the same thing I was getting.
Yeah.
I think it's an issue with Instagram.
Correct.
Okay, let me accept. Well, it's still there. I still see the request. Okay, what if I send you an invite? Okay, I invited you.
Yeah, just check it.
It says you're unable to join. Let me do it again. Invite.
It says that I joined in, but it tells me that you can send a request once again. I don't know what's wrong with Instagram.
Yeah, I think Instagram is having issues because when you started yours, I was able to join, but then after a while, it just my face went away and I could only see you. Well, I guess we could just be, I don't know, be have independent IG live streams and then just invite people.
Yeah, we can do that. Let me just go off. I'll just restart my app once. Let me see if that works. Just
Okay,
like
I did
any
that.
other
I did
program.
that as okay. I did that as well. While you do that, let me update the ISO on my camera because I'm really overexposed. One sec.
Yeah. Okay, one last
That's a
time.
little better.
Yeah.
Not all the way. Okay.
Yeah, I did send you a invite last time. Let's just check if that works. And if it doesn't, then we can probably go independent and just put a pin comment there.
Okay. So did you send me a request or an invite?
Oh, got it. I think we are there. I restarted my app and that worked.
Oh, okay.
One second, let me just mute this.
Yeah, me too. Let me turn the volume down.
Hang on. Just muted it. I hope we don't have those echo issues now.
No, I think it was last time it was me. I think it's because I had my phone plugged into the device that I use for managing the audio.
Mm-hmm. And I think this time it's me because my phone is still. One second. I need to mute this, right? Otherwise, it'll cause an echo. Just hang on, huh?
Sure.
It's not letting me go all the way down. Like it's not letting me mute the speaker on my phone. I muted the microphone, however.
Okay. You're gonna laugh about this. They were having all kinds of technical issues. So the reason why my video looked bad, it was because it was a built-in camera on my laptop. So
Oh,
it
all
was
right.
not my the webcam that I have.
I think then
One sec.
yeah, you need to adjust your ISO once again.
Yeah, so let me adjust the ISO again.
Correct. No worries.
Okay, much better.
All right. 1 second. Now I don't have the echo as well.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what I did?
Uh-huh.
I put a headphone jack in my phone so that, the volume doesn't come up.
Oh, that's a good solution.
Yeah. It wasn't letting me mute it, so I just put a headphone jack there.
Okay, so I guess we've been live this whole time, right? While we're trying to struggling to fix everything.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's fun.
Instagram's playing pretty weird today, so
Yeah. I guess restarting your app fixed the issue, huh?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, something was going on.
correct. I love your desktop right there. What actually are you using in your background?
It's just light. So I built this. So you see those little LEDs?
Yeah.
So when I bought that, it was like a kit of four little strips. They're
Uh-huh.
probably, I would say, maybe 8 inches long. So
Right.
it's a set of four.
Uh-huh.
And I just put them on a stick pretty much. I just tied them up, and then that's why you see that light. And that light changes color.
Hmm.
It has a little remote, and
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
control it.
I get that.
Yeah. And
And
then
how
yeah,
about
go ahead.
your, I was talking about your machine. So that seems to be pretty hefty one.
It's a I consider it old now. It's an Alienware.
I could,
Uh,
yeah, I could make it out that it's an Alienware.
yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
like 2 or 3 years old. I've had it for a while.
Uh-huh.
And then around my desk, I just have same thing. Here, I'll show you on my phone. I think it's easier to move.
Yeah,
Same thing. So I have LEDs going around, and then
correct.
behind the monitor, I have another set of LEDs or RGB lights that you can also change the color.
Uh-huh. Yeah, nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been waiting to have a permanent place now because I'll be moving probably as I told you. So once I move, then I'll, set up my desk properly. Right now it's all messed up.
Yeah, same thing. I'm in the process. Well, I think I have like enough gear. I think I haven't bought anything new for a while. I
Uh-huh.
think I have everything I need.
Mm.
I think the only thing that I could probably use is another lens, because so that's what happened before I guess we finished with the technical issues.
Yeah.
So I changed lenses last minute on my camera,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and this one has a wider aperture, so that's why I thought I was overexposed, but
Uh-huh.
it turned out to be that it was the webcam that was sending the image, not my main camera. So yeah,
Okay.
that because I have two cameras. If I had two lenses, I wouldn't have to be switching. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I could use. But yeah, I'm also in the process of moving as well. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
have a right now. All you see is set up in my living room, but hopefully
Okay.
in the next place I'll have an office.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we should get to what people are here
Point.
for, right?
Yeah. Right. Okay.
After what 20 minutes of technical issues.
Yeah. Correct. So, correct. So what I thought would be good that if we compared, TypeScript and JavaScript to C Sharp, because that's where your experience lies, and both of them are like, we are at a stage where they're very common. There are a lot of common things between TypeScript and C Sharp, since we discussed previously as well that the brain behind C Sharp. So Ander Ellsberg led the team for C Sharp, and then he's the one who led it for TypeScript as well. And Microsoft now pretty much owns the entire JavaScript development stack. So I don't know if you're aware of it or not. Visual Studio Code, that's Microsoft, and then NPM was bought by Microsoft.
That I
GitHub is
didn't know.
yeah, so
Okay.
that's the last purchase they did. So they've been on a shopping spree. uh, NPM is now with Microsoft, and uh, GitHub is with Microsoft. So, and TypeScript has always been Microsoft. So they are the ones
Mhm.
who started it. The whole concept came from that company. So now they are they might not own the V8 engine that they're running in their browser, but what I feel is that they own the bigger thing. They own JavaScript itself. So they have an authority in deciding which direction the entire web goes now. And Satya Nadella he's been very intelligent with the kind of acquisitions he's made, and Microsoft has been pretty much with the developers since 2012, if I'm not wrong. And yeah.
Yeah, I think my opinion in regard to Satya, right? I think I even read. No, I don't think I did read his book. I forget what it's called. Um, I forget what it's called, but
Uh-huh.
he has an interesting journey. But his approach to things is way different than than the previous CEO. I
Hmm.
think what he likes to he leans a lot on open source,
Correct.
and I think that's probably one of the reasons how we ended up with Visual Studio Code.
Uh-huh.
I think that they started pushing that way. They made ASP.NET or .NET open source. Well, semi-open source is not really open source, but they
Okay.
call it open source, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, but I think that push was a really big move, and then obviously the cloud, the integrations with the cloud that they have. I don't know if you remember. I think Visual Studios 2017 was the first one that sort of started having integrations with Azure.
Yes.
I remember loving the fact that you could just right click and publish your API directly
Correct.
to the cloud.
Hmm.
Um, Although it's not best practice now, but I remember that it was so easy for you to test something right away on an environment.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I really like that. So yeah,
Hmm.
if we compare the Microsoft now after since Satya has been at the helm, is different than how it was. So I think
Yeah.
they're moving in a good direction, which could also be scary, right? That they control
Yeah.
so many things, but the
Correct.
innovation that they're putting into the whole tech stack, I think is good.
Yeah. So when you called it semi open source, so what do you mean by that?
Well, there is a lot of um, like controls, right? To um, yeah, there are a lot of controls for. Sorry, I was just giving a note.
Okay.
There are a lot of controls to be able to put in code in into .NET, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
by that I mean it's because just the sheer amount of people who want to contribute, right? That makes it difficult when you're
Correct.
opening a when you work in an open source project and there's let's say 20-25 contributors. It's
Correct.
different than when you have potentially thousands, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it I guess that's what I mean by that, right? So yes, it is open source. They follow the same process, but just the fact that there's so many people contributing,
Correct.
um, right? It's what
Mhm.
makes it difficult.
Yeah, I think that has been the case with most of these big repositories, because if you look at the V8 engine, that's the same story. Now, Google pretty much controls what goes into the V8 engine that powers the Chrome browser. but Microsoft decided to control the JavaScript rather than the engine which processes JavaScript. So that was a very smart move, because they had lost, as far as the battle on the browser was concerned. They knew they cannot compete with Google anymore, Google Chrome or Firefox. So they were pretty much they'd pretty much lost there. And then they used the V8 engine since it was open source. And but that's where Google is. So there is a gatekeeper which decides what's going to go into that open source repository. But the only positive thing about it is that it is open source. So you can at least look at what's there, and what's how the engine is constructed, and what's going on. So at least we are at that stage where uh, we have that control, but then we can at least dive deeper into the code and see how it has been built.
Yeah, and that is helpful.
Yeah, that is helpful. Yeah, correct.
But I
So
think generally, I think it's a good approach. I think that
yeah.
that the way they're going. Um,
Hmm.
so for people who, well, just a note. I don't know if you saw my chat, but they're saying that they can't hear us on Instagram. So I
uh
think maybe because you plugged in the mic or the headphones, maybe
no, I just realized, yeah, I just saw the chat and realized that my mic was muted as well, so I unmuted it the moment I got the chat.
okay,
Now I think I would be audible.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, sounds good. Um,
So you were
so
saying
yeah,
something.
let me see. Let me make sure that let's
Okay,
see.
someone
Yes.
messaged and said it's okay now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
that's actually my sister. She's the one that told
Okay.
me.
Oh, that was helpful.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So you were saying something about.
Yeah. So no. So just kind of like my thoughts in general
Mhm.
about the whole evolution of Microsoft. I think is going on down a good path.
Correct.
But then before we start talking a little bit more about TypeScript,
Yeah.
I wanted to sort of kind of make an observation. So with the move to the cloud, I feel that some of those integrations that they had at the beginning are kind of going away because they allow you to directly connect with Azure.
Hmm.
Like that what I was saying, that I used to create an API, right click and publish right to Azure right away.
Yeah.
So that, I think, like I was saying, is that best practice. I think it's great when you want to get something going right away and you want to test it in an environment.
Correct.
But once you are in a production,
Hmm.
um, uh, I guess in a production service or API, that's
Yeah.
probably the not the best practice, right? You have your DevOps team
Right.
involved in something like that.
Yes, I agree. Otherwise, you risk production going down, so you don't want to do that, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, but then with GitHub, I think they've been very good, when it comes to continuous integration and those GitHub actions now. And it's become really, it's very much organized. So I still remember, when Git was launched initially, and then they came up with this GitHub. There were so many confusions around how to use Git for version control. And we were pushing all the files there. We're not aware of the git ignore file, and how to keep your repos organized. So it was a mess. But now, with Azure as well, as you said, so it's very tightly integrated. If you are in that ecosystem, it makes it very easy for you to have that continuous integration in place, those staging servers in place. And then there are other companies who's just copied that Microsoft Azure integration with C Sharp and .NET framework, and created JavaScript alternatives. So if you talk about Heroku, if you talk about Vercel, they are all inspired by C Sharp and what Microsoft .NET framework does, and that's why I call it's a complete replica of. So they've really taken out the best out of .NET framework as such, and then replicated that in JavaScript. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's yeah. So whatever they had for .NET, they're doing something similar for. Sorry, that's my alarm.
yeah,
So they did something similar for JavaScript as well.
correct.
Um, I was just going to mention something, and I forgot what it was.
Okay.
It was like I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm sure it will come back to me.
Okay. So talking about TypeScript, this strict typing thing that was brought into JavaScript. So JavaScript itself is like it's a loosely typed language, and then there are a lot of problems with JavaScript if you are not using TypeScript by default. And that elegance of having strict typing and just the way it exists in C sharp, that pretty much is added by TypeScript to JavaScript. And you can so it is you can use it with Node, or you can use it with your web apps as well. And ultimately that TypeScript code is compiled back to JavaScript, and that's how it is processed. And so earlier we used to have this we still have this MERN stack, which is as widely accepted. So you're using Express along with Node, along with your React. And a new framework that has come up on Express it's called the Nest.js. And this new framework is very much similar to .NET Core. So you're working with .NET Core, and you're pretty much aware of the dependency injections, how they work. And this framework is pretty much that, though it's not developed by the Microsoft team. But the contributors, they are deeply inspired by the .NET Core. And even Laravel, if you talk about PHP, it adopts so many things. Its dependency injection is pretty much similar to .NET Core. And that's why I feel C sharp as a language, it's going in a very right direction. And if you are anywhere, like if you're in this party of C sharp or TypeScript, I particularly feel you are in the right position at this point of time. What are your thoughts?
Um, I can't speak to Next.js. I think that's Next.
No,
Is
there are
that what
two
you're?
frameworks. So one is an NEST, that is for the backend, and
Okay.
then there is NEXT, which is for static site rendering and front end.
Okay.
So yeah, so NEST is your .NET Core and C sharp inspired framework. So it lets you create APIs. That's it.
Yeah. So let me. So I'll take this the approach of I kind of give you like the industry approach. It seems like you're not live anymore
I
on
can't.
Instagram.
Your video has vanished.
Yeah. So same. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Um. Oh well. I guess shall we continue?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess the approach that I'm seeing, right, it's not necessarily as a developer, but it's more
Mm-hmm.
like what I kind of see with the industry, right? So when Microsoft came out with .NET Core,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't accepted right away, right? Just like anything else that's new, right? At the
Yeah.
beginning, people don't like change; they want to keep using the things they're accustomed to.
Correct.
So that's kind of like what happened with .NET Core.
Uh-huh.
And now, they're already working on version 7. I think there's like preview 2 that was
Mm-hmm.
just announced.
Okay.
And it's well, obviously now it is accepted. And now, like you said, now people or, other groups are mimicking the success that they had. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Correct.
like I said, I can't speak to, I'm vaguely familiar with Next.js.
Mm-hmm.
I This is the first time I hear about Nest.js. I think I have to spend more time online and learning about new things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think what it is, like right from the bigger picture, I think it's that there's something there that Microsoft did well,
Yeah.
and now other companies want to sort of follow the same pattern.
Correct.
Um, I'm very partial to .NET and C Sharp because that's pretty much has been my most of my experience.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of PHP, a
Uh-huh.
little bit of Java,
Mm-hmm.
Python, but
Okay.
in the grand scheme of things, there is
Mm-hmm.
a reason why industries, established industries, pick Microsoft as their,
Oh yes.
for
Yeah.
their stack, right? You
Correct.
see a lot of startups choosing other things, like more trendy things.
Yes.
But if you go to any business,
Yeah.
like an enterprise level,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
chances are that they are using, Microsoft products in their data centers just because of the not necessarily liability, but for the customer support
Yeah.
purpose, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if and not just that, but also executives are able to say, well, Microsoft is supposed to take care of that, right? So we signed a contract with Microsoft to give us support,
Yeah.
and that's
Correct.
an easy way of saying like, okay, well, something broke, well, let's call Microsoft and have them, have
Yes.
them
Yeah.
look into this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Correct.
that is a big thing, right? When you use open source technology
Yeah.
as a big enterprise, you don't have that luxury, right?
Oh
You
yes.
especially if you're using something new,
Yeah.
who are the executives going to call, right? You
Right.
gotta fix it. You gotta fix it yourself. So I
Yeah.
think that is one of the reasons why you see, bigger companies like that, like Oracle
Yeah.
um, and obviously Microsoft being there, right? Because
Right.
they provide that support.
Mm-hmm. Correct. No, I agree with you because now, if I look at the industry, I don't even see any competition for .NET Core and for C Sharp as such because it is backed by Microsoft. That is one. The earlier disadvantage it had as compared to Java was that it wasn't cross-platform and it wasn't open source and all those things. And now the licensing terms are like very flexible when it comes to .NET Core, even if you compare it to Java. And Java is that one mammoth which hasn't, changed itself in last couple of years. And as I said, as a TypeScript developer, if I have looked at certain C Sharp and .NET Core applications, and I see that I'm able to understand the code because uh, uh, you guys are using NuGet instead of npm, and those similar import statements, and similarly strictly typed variables and everything. And it seems that I am in the same world. It doesn't seem as if I look at Java code, I feel I'm in a different, I've reached Mars. It's a different environment altogether. But when I look at C Sharp, I can, as not being a C Sharp developer and being a TypeScript developer, I can still understand what's happening in different files. So I think that's a merging point. Though Microsoft has been, as you correctly said, so that's the number one choice for enterprises. And now I see many startups also adopting uh, uh, .NET Core as the starting point, because they want to start from somewhere which can be scaled. And we know that this particular stack is pretty much scalable because now you have your Microsoft SQL as your database, and Azure very tightly integrated. Everything is that enterprise class. And as you said, that executives can call up Microsoft as well. So I think
Yeah,
that's the reason why a lot of startups are also adopting C Sharp.
yeah, yeah. So definitely, um, I think that in a way, I guess .NET has become, I guess, cooler than it was before. Years ago when you used to talk, let's just go back 10 years ago when you
Yeah.
said .NET.
Oh yes.
The develop there is like two sides, right? Like the people who worked at or worked at that point worked at startups. It was like,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't. They just didn't think that
Oh yeah.
.NET was cool enough, right? There were others,
Yes.
they'll pick any other stack, but not .NET. Now
Yeah.
is to where it, like you said, now it's acceptable,
Yeah.
pretty much anywhere.
Yes.
um,
And I think, yeah, as you said, like 10 years back, if I would say .NET, people would say Ruby on Rails,
yeah,
that now, it's very difficult to find a Ruby developer. You can't, like, you have to hunt for a Ruby developer, and there are many known applications that made the transit pretty quickly. So if you're aware that Shopify was initially developed on Ruby, and the moment Node came out, they started working on it, and now it's a complete Node stack. So if you are a Node developer, if you're a JavaScript developer, you can easily create plugins and applications for Shopify as well. uh, that's a big achievement, and for Node, I would say. And the reason why I think a lot of people didn't accept .NET Core initially was because it was coming from Microsoft. So
yeah,
same was the case when Microsoft acquired GitHub. People didn't accept it. They started moving their repositories to GitLab, and they said something's bad gonna happen just because Microsoft has taken over GitHub. But I think it's because the management has a different vision altogether now. That's the reason. It's not because the technology was poor. It's because Microsoft was bringing it. That's what I feel the case is.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think we're in a good path. Yeah. um, that the idea that I had, still hasn't came back, and I feel like it was something important that I wanted to say. um, oh well, I'll just let it go.
Okay.
uh, are you able to tell if we have anybody watching on YouTube?
Yeah, I think. One second. Let me just open the stream and check.
By the way, for those of you who are watching on Instagram, go ahead and join us on YouTube. There is a link in the bio. You might not be able to hear Manik talk, but it's because he somehow dropped off the. Well, not Manik, but something happened with Instagram, and we're not able to keep the conversation live on Instagram. But we are live on YouTube. So I have a link in my bio. You can go ahead and join us there.
Yeah, I think fewer
And
people are there on YouTube. It's just 6 people who are actually watching on YouTube. Most of them are watching on Instagram. So if you can make the announcement.
yes, yes. Here we have some more people joining. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for those of you who joined. Like I said, we're here. We're live on Instagrams. Excuse me, on YouTube. So come join us. I'll try to invite you again, Manik, to the live stream
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
and see if.
Let me just leave 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, if you can send me an invite once again.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, I think it worked this time. Yeah.
Okay. We have 100 people watching on Instagram. So for
Yeah.
those of you who just joined on Instagram, we are also going live on YouTube. So I put a link in the bio. So please go ahead and join us there. There has been some issues with Instagram, so you might not be able to hear the whole conversation if you don't join on YouTube. So hopefully we'll get some more people to join us on YouTube.
Yeah. So where were we? We were probably talking about Nest.js, right?
Yeah, and then I think I remembered what what I
Okay.
was gonna ask. Yeah, so I wanted to get your thoughts on Java in general. I know that Java has been around for a bit longer than C Sharp has been, and it has obviously been, or it was, a lot more successful. There,
Right.
Java is installed in millions of devices.
Hmm.
What do you think the future holds for Java as a language, and then as a platform? Do you
Yeah.
think that, because I get that question a lot, where new developers ask me, like, hey, do you think it's a good idea for me to learn Java? And I would say, well, there is going to be jobs in demand for Java. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
But I don't think as many new applications are being developed in Java. I could be wrong,
Uh-huh.
right? But if they are, I think it's the same thing because of the same reason I was saying, right? That um, there is customer support for Java, for the Java stack per se, or any
Hmm.
other libraries, or software that you can use around Java.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a community there.
Hmm.
But do you think it's a growing community, or do you think it's slowly declining?
Yeah, so I have not been a Java developer myself as well, but I've been closely in contact with a lot of people around me who are pro Java, and someone who works on Java is like, they would not want to work on any other programming language. That's the developer perspective, right?
Hmm.
Is there an echo?
Yeah, I think my phone. Um, yeah, I turned it down all the way. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
So yeah, there are developers who are pro Java, and then they would not want to develop on anything else. But there have been certain uh, developments in past which I feel have made the importance of Java a bit lesser in the entire community. So first development that I would say is that Google officially adopting Kotlin as the programming language for Android in 2019. So that's a major transition, though Kotlin works interoperatively with Java. So but Google wants you to transit your code from Java to ultimately Kotlin, and that makes it much more a favorite, much lesser a favorite amongst developers. I do get that question a lot about Java jobs, and I don't feel there's going to be any shortage of jobs, as you said, for Java, because there are so many applications which are already running on the Java stack, because ASP.NET was nowhere in the scene in last 8 years, and it was all Java. So all your enterprise applications, even your bank applications, most of them have been done in Java. So there's no doubt that it's going to maintain its importance. But if you talk as of now, I think C Sharp is doing a much better job, and there is a wider community which is more oriented towards .NET Core as the new framework to adopt to for newer applications, and not really Java.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right and I sort of agree. I have the same feeling that so for example, I don't see a startup picking Java to be part of their stack, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think I could say that maybe I'm right in that. Yeah, because if I was building a new product and MVP, I wouldn't choose Java as my stack, right? So that's sort of kind of where I was basing this on. That I don't think it's as popular as it was now. And
Hmm.
like you said, there is many applications that are in the wild, out there in production, that will be for the next 20 years, right? Just
Yeah.
because of, especially like you mentioned in banking, right?
Right.
Those applications, don't move. I mean, if
Yes.
something works,
Yeah.
it's not going to change anytime
Correct.
soon.
Yeah.
So I think it's more, the way it would happen is that a new competitor to those legacy systems, whatever they might be,
Yeah.
that is written in a different language will eventually,
Yeah.
replace those legacy systems, right? If
Correct.
those older systems don't evolve.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, when people ask, oh, it's like, for example, in general, oh, is web development in danger because now we have these drag and drop, like solutions for people to build websites. Like, well, no, I think if you think about all the applications that are out there,
Yeah.
all of them are going to need maintenance.
Yes.
um,
Correct. And I feel it's more about the skill set now, because you have so many those those WordPress developers as well. And uh, if you really want to compete even for a simple blog, this WordPress websites, they can't even uh, fulfill the lighthouse criteria that Google sets up. And so you need to adopt new stacks. And that's where, eventually, as you said, these applications, you won't need them. And better things would replace them. And drag and drop is for the brochure sites, or even for setting up e-commerce. I don't consider that as a development anymore, until unless you're not doing something customized, which is integrated within your app, or there's a special use case. I don't think e-commerce and blogging and all those brochure websites, they are even going to come under the development segment. So there are going to be a section of developers who are going to maintain these larger applications which will let you create e-commerce and blog sites very quickly. And those are going to be the developers. And ultimately, if you are doing drag and drop, I don't count that under the development itself.
yeah, I agree. The other thing that's just kind of going in a bit of a tangent here. Uh, Sometimes people ask me like, "Hey, how long does it take to build a project?"
Yeah.
Uh, and I always say, "Well, it depends. It depends on what the project is, right?"
Right.
Because like a lot of the questions I get, the answer that fits is, "Well, it depends," right? Like there's more to just a simple question, right? You have to know more about the details of what they're trying to accomplish. But
Correct.
in general, if somebody says like, hey, so how long does it take for a project? Well, it depends, how many people are going to be working on the team, what are the requirements.
Yeah.
um, but then that sort of question comes from the mentality or mindset that they think that software, once you write it, it's done,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
It's software, it's never it's
Yeah.
never done, especially if something you write goes to production.
Yes.
It's never really
Yeah.
finished,
It's
right?
never
It's
finished.
it's there. You have to maintain it.
Oh,
New
yes.
requirements will come along. You
Yeah.
might have to refactor to be able to support those new requirements, new features. And
Yes.
therefore software really is never really done, right?
It's an
It's just
ongoing
like,
process. Yeah. I don't know where that mindset even comes from. I think mostly when the CEO or the decision maker is not technical enough, that kind of questions would come up, when you have a business plan in place, and you know that this the application that I'm going to make is going to be used by a lot of people. Then you get that wit to understand that, okay, this is not going to be a full stop process. So it's not that there's going to be a deadline to this. Yes, there can be a deadline to a version, which I agree. Like, these set of features, okay, it might take approximately this much amount of time if you're going agile, and you're having your scrum meetings. That, okay, this is the kind of path that we are adopting. But then software development as such, if your application reaches a stage where you're saying that we are done, then probably you're shutting down the company. That's the only state when you would say that this is done. you know
exactly, exactly,
yeah.
because even if you sell it, right, if you sell the company, like the software still lives and someone will have to maintain it.
Correct.
I guess as long as there are users,
Uh-huh.
and it's generating revenue,
Yeah.
someone has to be there to maintain it.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah. I
yeah.
agree with you on that. Another thing that I've seen, really happening is that there was an era uh, when most of the languages were not they were not strictly typed. So consider JavaScript, you consider Python, PHP. All of them were like they would try to really interpret what kind of value you're storing in a variable, and they're very loosely typed languages. And now we are back to a situation where we have accepted that a good code or a good program needs to have those that strict typing in place, and we are going back to those C++ and C sharp and uh, Java kind of coding, when it comes to JavaScript. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think let me start with the reason why I think that those languages came about.
Hmm.
I think that so for example, when I started learning how to code, um, it was very easy for you to pick up a language like that you didn't have to worry about typing, right? It's like, okay, I want
Yeah.
to store something in this variable.
Yeah.
I don't really have to worry about the type. I'm just gonna, you know, set the
Yeah.
value and move forward, right? And
Correct.
it's great for a quick start. So, for example, if you're starting to learn how to code, maybe
Hmm.
that's one less thing you have to worry about.
Yes.
Like data types, right? So I guess the barrier to entry was lower.
Yeah.
But then when you build an enterprise level application with a language like this, you run into problems with
Oh, yeah.
being able to maintain that
Yeah.
code.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why TypeScript came to exist, right? Because that was a major pain that
Yes.
sometimes you didn't know what was gonna be returned, from a function. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think later on people realized like, okay, so now we have all these new developers that got a job as devs and build applications, but it's
Yeah.
costing a lot of money to maybe maintain those things,
Yeah.
or maybe they are expensive to run on an environment just because of the resources that they're taking, because it wasn't developed as it should have been. So
Correct.
that's my thought. I'm not necessarily sure that that's the reason why, but I
Yeah.
could see that happening,
Yeah.
where you kind of look back and see like, well, this is not easy to maintain because you know because of that, the typing.
Yeah.
um, so I've always kind of just, I guess, got lucky to where, well, maybe luck is not the word, but I always work with static typed
Mm.
languages.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get to experience that much. JavaScript, when I picked up React, I was not, the first time around, actually was using TypeScript out of the box when .NET
Hmm.
Core first came out. I think version 1 and version 2, I think when you created a React project, they
Okay.
automatically put in TypeScript. I think now
Okay.
it's optional, I believe. At least the
Okay.
last time I created a new project.
Hmm.
But then I started. So, for example, now I use TypeScript at work with
Hmm.
Angular,
Yeah.
and I think it's the way to do it. Um,
Yeah. Right.
I just think it places guardrails for future developers,
Correct.
that it tells you exactly what to expect from methods or functions.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah. And I think what you're saying is correct. And then it brought in structure as well to JavaScript, because see, when you're talking about enterprise applications, you have your design patterns in place. So you want to have something as an abstract class. You want to have your interfaces so that the other programmers know what they have to write, what is expected in this particular function as as an argument. And that's a big problem with JavaScript. And initially I have worked with JavaScript when even this syntactic sugar wasn't there. So now you do have classes with JavaScript, but earlier it was like prototypes. And under the hood, it still works with prototypes. Those classes, they just give you that syntactic sugar, but the TypeScript takes it a step further, and then you are in a position to really maintain your code and have everything in a structured way. Again, we are coming back to the same thing, which has been, so now you can get inspired from a framework like .NET Core and implement those same similar design patterns in JavaScript, and that is just because of TypeScript. It's not because.
I lost your audio, Manik. I hear you on Instagram, but I don't hear you on my headphones anymore. Sure. And while Manik fixes his audio issues, for those of you watching on Instagram, we're also live on YouTube. If you want to go ahead and join us there, um, I left the link in the bio so you can join us and watch us live on YouTube. So come join us. I'll try to answer some questions from Instagram as I wait. Sure, sure. So this is a question that was asked on Instagram. The question is, do I think that Agile would be outdated and is waterfall now? It depends on the company you work for. I know that there are companies who call their process Agile, and they sort of hold the ceremonies that are needed to be an Agile shop, but most of the time it ends up being waterfall. They just do sort of documenting the tickets and tracking the tickets in a way that seems to be agile, but it's not. I don't think that agile will go away, simply because that's somewhere like that's where we came from and in the industry, and some companies opted to do agile, and I think agile works if the company and the process supports it. I know that there's always the pushback of the product owner versus the engineering team, and how quickly things could be developed versus the promises that were made to customers. So I think there's always that risk, and I don't think that's something that will go away as far as day to day. I think that processes need to be put in place, so these two mindsets can live in the same company.
Okay, you have me back now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry
All
about
right.
that. Yeah.
No problem. I was answering questions. So, and by the way, so for those of you who are on Instagram, one more time, you guys can join us on YouTube, and you can place a question in the comments, and we'll get to it. So if we missed any questions on Instagram, please join the YouTube stream, and you can leave your question there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Monique back.
Yeah.
I think today has been the day of technical
Glitches.
difficulties.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I was anticipating it since morning. I had a feeling that, technically something might just go, because there's just too many things working together today. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess if you don't if you have done a live stream on Instagram on your phone, it's very easy to do it, right?
Yeah,
Just
right.
go live and it's done.
Yeah.
But when you do something like this, it's a
Oh,
lot of things have to go well for it to
yeah, correct.
for it to work.
And today I'm on phone on Instagram, so that's we are facing difficulties on the phone itself. Otherwise, it's like
Yeah,
super
that's
smooth.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is the first time I encountered that issue where, the person couldn't join. Yeah, this is the first time that it's happened.
Yeah.
But that's technology for you.
Yeah. Right. So we got some questions.
Um, no, not yet. Well, actually, there are some questions on Instagram. Okay, here's a question that on Instagram. So I'll read the question and I'll let you answer it, Monique.
Mhm.
Why is it that mobile phone applications need to be updated several times a week?
Okay. So now you're asking this from a JavaScript developer point of view, or someone who's worked on the native apps.
I think this is probably just an end user asking. Yeah, I think we lost your audio again, Monique.
It should be
Uh,
back now.
Yep, it's back. It's
Yeah,
back. I hear it.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think the reason or the way they're asking the question is more or less from an end user, right? If you're not really a developer and you just use applications, you see that they update all the time.
yeah.
Um,
Correct. So I think the update is related to first things first. It's mostly the patches and the vulnerabilities or improvements in the previous code itself. So you realize that there's a bug, and then that is fixed. So most of these updates are related to the bug fixes, as I would say. And then there are new features that are constantly added to your applications, and then you're updating them. And then there are a lot of mechanics, I would say, that go behind this. So Android operating system updates trigger, need you to update the application. Then there are the platform updates. So any package updated in Kotlin, if I talk about Android, and any new update that came in Xcode itself, that would need you to update your app on iOS. So as we were talking about it, it's a constant process. Software lives on, lives till the users are using it. It's it's not really a done job. One fine day, you are out of it. That doesn't happen.
yeah. So I think I guess another reason that we might be able to see updates more often is that also the App Store and the Google Play Store are quicker to approve updates to mobile applications, right? Sure.
Okay, you have me back.
Okay.
Yeah. So where were we? We were discussing something.
Well, yeah, I think we finished talking about why mobile applications get so many updates.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't see any other questions. So what happens is that on Instagram, that if they don't use the little question icon at the bottom, I'm not able to find them. Otherwise, I will have to scroll through every message
Oh,
to
all right.
find questions that people left as a comment. So again, let me invite you guys to come to YouTube, and there's a link in my bio, and all you gotta do is just come over to YouTube, and you can place your question in the comments, and we'll make sure that we pick it up from there.
Yeah. So meanwhile, I do have a question for you. So I've been working on an application. We've been internally within the company. We've been talking about an application, which involves building a casino on cryptocurrency. So we want people to play on using cryptocurrency, and so there are a couple of games that we want to have on the platform. And you being a C# developer, um, I've seen certain advantages of using Unity as the framework to develop games. The kind of animation and the kind of the user interface that we can have when it comes to Unity. So what's your take on it? Like, have you ever worked with Unity, and how easy or difficult it is to get onto it and adapt it?
I never worked on with Unity before.
Okay.
One time I think I downloaded it and I was messing around with it,
Uh-huh.
but I have talked to in the past to a couple people, and the only thing I can tell you is that they've made a lot of changes to
Mm-hmm.
make it easier for developers to pick it up. What
Correct.
I've heard is that if you're already a C# developer, it's a lot easier than it was before to pick up the framework and start building things with it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I haven't really had experience with it.
Okay.
Um, so is that like the next project that you are working on?
Yeah, it's another project that we intend to do. So I'm just consulting technically, and we're talking to a lot of people who have done this in past, and then we're looking at a lot of cryptocurrencies and blockchain networks like Ethereum, and we want people to use crypto and exchange it for our casino tokens, and then play with our tokens on the casino, and then they can exchange it back for any of the cryptocurrency whatever they win within the casino. And
Okay.
yeah, so it's a bigger project, but then um, there are multiple technologies involved, so we're just trying to figure out. There are some people who have done those games using JavaScript and frameworks like Motion and all that, but then it doesn't come out as good as something that is developed using the gaming engine or Unity itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So your slot machine games and roulette, all those things, they work pretty well with Unity, because you can have those slick animations and music and all that stuff. It's very difficult to achieve that in pure JavaScript, or
Yeah.
even if you're using React or something like that.
Yeah. I see that we have a question in the comments
Yeah.
from Sean Arist.
Hmm.
I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. When developing an application, what architecture do you tend to apply for .NET Stack?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll take a stab at this. It depends. Again, it depends, right? It depends on what the solution is, right? If you are simply in the need of maybe an API and a UI application, a front end application, then that's that, right? If it's an enterprise level application where there's going to be it's mission critical and there's going to be a lot of traffic, then you probably need to use the microservice architecture with the service bus, sort of at the in the center of everything. but that's more difficult to set up, um, if it's going to be just for a small application, and not to mention that service buses are not cheap.
Hmm.
So that's something that to keep in mind. It depends what you're trying to build and how much traffic that application will have.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that, Manik.
No, no, I really agree with that. And in fact, I had a question, from within your answer itself. So when you're working with, these .NET applications, I do see heavy use of Docker as well, because I did see the source code for two or three of them, and like, they're using Docker. And Docker, as in a TypeScript or a Node project, is pretty standard, because if you're deploying serverless, you're creating those containers, and you're used to it. So is it similar when it comes to a .NET application, or there is a different approach to it?
No, that's well. There's two. I guess it depends how deep you want to go, right?
Hmm.
Okay, like some companies, they use Kubernetes, right,
Hmm.
to do the orchestration of Docker images,
Right.
and they use that concept of clusters.
Hmm.
Um, but that's something when you're talking like really high traffic
Yeah.
applications.
Hmm.
If you are, for example, like this application that you're talking about that you will be building,
Hmm.
um, depending right on the amount of traffic you get, you could simply deploy it by putting it in a Docker container, and it could be multiple, right? So for each component, discrete component of your application, you'll
Yeah.
probably have
Correct.
a Docker container. You might have
Yeah.
one for the front end, one for the back end,
Yeah.
or if there's going to be any supporting APIs, then you'll
Yeah.
put those in Docker containers as well.
Correct.
The beauty of it is that now that you have the image, you
Hmm.
could spin up multiple instances of that
Yeah. Yeah.
of
Correct.
that container. So that's
Yes.
the beauty of it. Now
Yeah.
Docker by itself is powerful to be able to create containers that way and to
Hmm.
sort of package your code in that manner.
Yeah.
The I guess that the challenge comes in when you need something to orchestrate it, like meaning how do you determine, how do you automate spinning up
Correct.
new Docker instances for
Yes.
those whatever components you have.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes a little bit trickier, right? Because that's something, because once you kind of start going the Docker way, then you sort of the way up, or the next level up would be to implement Kubernetes in
Use.
your
Yeah.
yeah in your
Correct.
pipelines.
Yeah. No,
And
I
then
agree with that.
that's again back to DevOps and a lot of I guess maintenance as well, right? And
Yeah.
refactoring some of the code to work in that architecture.
Correct. But I feel if you adopt Docker from the very beginning of application, there are lots of problems that you're avoiding. While deploying itself. So I got a legacy application, which I just had to look into and check, why they're facing problems. So different developers were using different versions of Node, and then I looked at so they don't even have a common package.json file. So if it's working on my computer, I have a different version of the dependency, someone else has a different version of the same dependency. So they just try to make it work on their systems. And when you ask them, so the only thing is, look, it's working on my system, why isn't it working on yours? So
Yep,
so I
that proverbial it works on my machine.
yeah. So I think that's where Docker is really helpful, because from day one you are ensuring that there is uh, one version of the entire stack, or you have that container in place, and then you're firing that container instead of installing those dependencies on your machine. So I think
Yeah,
that's helpful.
Sean left another comment.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking more about enterprise level applications. So for enterprise, usually you have, yeah, so for things like that, you usually use a service bus, and then you sort of plug in your microservices to that service bus, and so I don't know if you have you ever used a service bus, Manique,
No, I
or are you
haven't.
familiar?
I haven't worked on microservices.
I worked with one, or well, there was one in place, and then there was another one that we were designing.
Okay.
But pretty much the way it works is that you have sort of like an API gateway that sits at the front of your data center, right? So, for
Okay.
example, you behind that wall, and
Mm-hmm.
this could be on the cloud as well, or it could be on premise, right? You have
Okay.
an entry point where requests or endpoints that are available publicly,
Mm-hmm.
where external applications can make requests into your system.
Right.
So that's sort of like taking input from outside your organization
Mm-hmm.
into whatever is within your organization. So there is data coming in,
Yeah.
and in that gateway, you have the ability to, for example, create subscriptions, assign roles and claims to users,
Okay.
or applications for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens then is that this message goes into this service bus,
Okay.
and so think of it as a sort of like it's a message queue. It's like a fancy message queue, right? So
Okay.
the message goes into the queue, and then um, it gets broadcasted within your ecosystem,
Okay.
and you can configure microservices to respond to certain
All right.
types of messages.
Okay.
So then, so for example, right, a message comes in from an external entity or an external service,
Mm-hmm.
and that message itself has metadata that knows where the message needs to go.
Okay.
So that goes to, for example, it could go to a microservice, it does something to it, and then
Uh-huh.
it gets shipped off to another microservice to
All
do
right.
something else to that message. And
Okay.
then it goes back out to as a response when
Okay.
it's ready to go out. So
All
it's
right.
sort of very asynchronous.
Yeah.
So imagine trying to, so you're not gonna get a clean request, and then you're gonna get a response to that request right away, right? So
All right.
you sort of have to implement an asynchronous, event-driven
Uh-huh. Okay.
application or solution.
Uh-huh.
So then there is where the challenge happens. You will be able, and the bandwidth of this service bus is, almost infinite, right? If you want to pay more for it, obviously you'll be able to be able to handle more messages.
All right.
If you
Okay.
have microsystems plugged in,
Mm-hmm.
and microservices, excuse me, and one
Yeah.
of those microservices is overloaded, you spin
Yeah.
up another instance of that,
Okay.
microservice, to
Yeah.
be able to handle more of those type of messages. So
Uh-huh.
it's sort of like a distributed system, and
Hmm.
you can scale out. It doesn't have to scale out the whole ecosystem,
Right.
only the microservices that have more traffic.
Okay.
But
Fine.
in general, yeah. So the thing is a tricky part to set this up is that once you do that, then your architecture is async,
Yeah.
and it's trickier when you have to wait for acknowledgement to that a message was processed, or that a process finished processing. So that's
Yeah.
kind of why I say, I know that when people hear about microservices, it sounds very exciting and pretty cool,
Yeah.
but it's there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done to be able to support um, an architecture like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this person says that it seems cheap. For 1 million calls, you pay 5 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then this means that is so when you gotta look at all the stop points for your message. So they're gonna every call between each of your microservices and back out to the front door, they count those as calls.
Oh,
Um,
all right. So,
So
once a message enters, so, you're talking to multiple microservices, and then each call is
it's a
considered as,
call.
yeah.
Yeah. So it
So
can grow very quickly.
quickly, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Correct. So I think that's the case with most of these services. So even when you talk about Firebase itself, so the pricing, the starting point would look very attractive and lucrative, that, oh, I just end up paying this much amount of dollars for so many compute points or whatever. But when it scales up, then it becomes very difficult to exit out of the system. And then because you've developed everything using Firebase, now you can't go out of it, because you can't change your entire development stack. And that's when these systems start making money.
Yeah.
uh, I personally believe that it's you should understand what's really happening, what's new is coming up. But it's not really good to jump into a technology too soon. Let it be there, let it prove itself. Just see a few success cases, and then you would be in a good zone to identify whether you want to jump in and adopt it or not. uh,
Yeah.
shouldn't be just too quick with it.
I agree. So yeah, and then that kind of I feel the same way when it comes to things like when people ask me. So for example, like that you mentioned Nest, right? That kind of shows the fact that I'm not out there looking for new things, and maybe I should be a little bit more than I am now.
Mhm.
But the reason is that you sort of become you start getting comfortable with the things that you already know,
Yeah.
and the only thing that's going to get you out of the comfort zone and get you out there to learn new things is when you have a problem to solve.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
so like if you so for example, let's say within the last 2 years, right, we had a need for a distributed cache, and
Okay.
we started looking at Redis. It's
Yeah.
probably one of the most popular ones, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And it works great for what it does, but we
Hmm.
needed something more flexible. And then
Hmm.
I think Ncache was the other one that we started looking into.
Okay.
And again, right, so I had to go out and learn what those systems did and maybe play around
Yes.
with them a bit.
Yeah.
And those that's sort of like what motivates me to go out and learn new things, right? When I
Correct.
come across a problem that I need to solve.
Yeah.
But I usually don't try to go out there, learn new things, and then
Yeah.
not use them and
Hmm.
then forget them because I never
Yeah.
used them.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So Nest also came to me as a utility itself. So I had been developing all my applications on Express and using TypeScript. So I was thinking of so we had to build the scalable system for our blog, because we want to transition from most of our blogs in the company are running on WordPress, and some of them have got hefty traffic as well. And we are suffering because of the security reasons when it comes to WordPress, and even the performance. So we decided to move around 60 blogs to a different platform that I had to build. And then I thought of implementing certain architectures in place, maybe an MVC style framework within Express. And if you worked in Express, you would realize that it just gives you the incoming request and the outgoing request. So there's this pipeline and middleware that you can add to Express. It doesn't give you any structure. So it's left on to you how you want to structure your application. So some
Mm,
people would go in and adopt functional programming, and some people would go and adopt the object oriented way. That's when I discovered Nest. So they have the structure in place, and a lot of contributors and very growing community. So it's something which has taken over Express. And the best part is that it uses Express under the hood. And uh, so all the tried and tested platforms. So for their ORM, they're using Type ORM, Express for the basic incoming outgoing request structures. And then they've built upon what already exists, and just provided a structure to it. And that's the Nest framework.
Yeah.
I think you have
I think
another
I'm gonna.
question.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend some time looking into Nest. You have me intrigued now.
Okay,
Um,
all right, good.
so here we have a question. What are my thoughts on Maui, or what are our thoughts on Maui? Do you think C# developers will be able to create single applications, a single application for multiple platforms like web, desktop, and mobile? Well, that approach has been around for a while. Before it was called Maui. I think it's what used to be called Mono.
Hmm.
This was an I think it was an open source project. Actually, it was led by someone from Mexico as well,
Okay,
Miguel Icaza.
okay,
He's the one that who created, and I think he created something else before that. I forget what it was, but Mono was bought by Microsoft. So Miguel Icaza came to work for Microsoft. And I think he's still there.
okay,
And so the Mono project gave you that ability to be able to run. For me, it was be able to run or write codes, C# code on a Mac. So before Visual Studio Code existed,
all right.
that was the way that you could write code on a Mac.
Uh-huh.
And then they just obviously they rebranded it. So now there is a Visual Studio Code for Mac,
Yes.
um, which was pretty much the editor that Mono had
Okay,
before. So they just rebranded it.
okay.
Um, but the I guess the idea behind it all is right, trying to use one
Code base.
platform, yeah, one code base to develop for multiple devices.
Yeah.
Um, and then that's kind of where you start asking yourself, like, why do I want to do this, right? If you use the same code base to
Mm-hmm.
write an application for example, a tablet versus or a mobile versus a desktop.
Yeah.
A mobile and desktop, they have very different use cases.
Mm-hmm.
So your application is going to be developed very differently because
Right.
that's the you should start with the user experience, right? Or that should be a big focus point for for your design when you're designing software.
Yeah.
So although technically you can do that,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you might make the decision or should make the decision that you shouldn't mix desktop and mobile because
Yeah.
they're not the same thing. Although you can use the same code base for both, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get into a world of hurt because you're going to be have one code base that is housing two applications.
Right.
Then what's the point of doing that? You could decouple them and
Yes.
have one mobile application and one desktop web if you want to do it that way.
Yeah.
So this goes not just for Maui, but any other technologies out there that allow you to do that. For example, I think Electron lets you do that as well.
Yeah.
Between Mac and Windows, I know that you can do that for Mac and Windows.
Yeah.
But when it comes to mobile and web desktop, there's a huge difference. Mobile is a whole different ball game.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I'll just share my point of view on that as well. So, if you talk about Electron, Electron is I would say it's in a bit different zone because what you're really doing is you're coupling your app inside something inside a browser. So you basically you're firing a browser and then you're running it on Windows and Mac. So that's how Electron is working. But when it comes to these hybrid so-called code one and use it on Android and iOS. When it comes to like Xamarin and even React Native is there, they don't give you that kind of performance and that kind of user experience that a native app would give you. And uh, for me, it's like you're always developing for the users. You don't want to make if you're developing a large scale application, then you're talking about investments and you're making investment in your Android app and in your iOS separately. You're not concerned about making your developers life easy, but you're more concerned about how many users can you get for your app and how user experience is going to be good on your application. So that's where these React natives and these Xamarins they fail big time because uh, you don't want to be using one code base for Android and iOS and leave aside using one code base for desktop and mobile and then for the web. So I'm of the opinion that what Kotlin and iOS is going to solve, these platforms would always be a step behind.
Yep. Yeah. But so I think there is a place um, for this multi or cross-platform technologies. I think they're perfect for wanting to get an MVP out and reach as many
Yes,
people as possible. I think
correct. Yeah,
that's a good thing there.
yeah,
But once you start building traction,
yeah,
I think that's when you really need to start to considering to build native applications and sort
yeah.
of get away from um, from the cross-platform things.
Yes,
And the reason why is, and again, think about it. If you build an MVP, you don't have a lot of money revenue coming in.
correct.
So you want to build it as cheaply as you can. But
Yeah,
once you need to scale out,
yeah,
if you were able to get a good business model going, you should
correct.
be generating revenue from your application, and therefore you could afford to have developers develop two different versions
Right.
of that mobile application.
I agree. And just building upon that, I had a customer contact me and said, I want to, if you can guide me whether, she has an online store which is doing pretty good. She has local stores as well. Everything is running on Shopify. So their POS systems on the local outlets, the brick and mortar business is also running on Shopify. And now she wants a mobile app. Now that's a pretty good use case for using any of those React natives and hybrid solutions, because it's always going to be limited. It's just a few customers that she wants to cater to. It's an add-on experience for her customers that they can open the mobile app and you know uh, purchase products and those push notifications. There is no other use case. Like she doesn't she would probably not be expanding to a user base of hundreds of thousands of users, and that's a pretty good use case for these uh, you know hybrid platforms. Apart from that, I think you really need to go the native way.
Yep, I agree. I
There's a
agree.
question on Instagram. It says, I'm working on Mern stack right now, and I lost it. 1 second. Oh, it becomes very difficult to scroll if you're not posting on questions.
Yeah. It's hard to find.
Yeah, I lost the question. So I think it said that I'm working on the Mern stack right now, and my manager is pushing me to move to a different technology. And what should I do? I don't remember the name of the technology, so I can't really.
um,
Yeah. So you want to answer that in general?
so they're asking, they want to move away from Mern to something else.
Yes.
I guess it's difficult to answer since we don't know the reason why they want to move away.
Yeah.
Because usually there has to be a very big reason. If they already have an established product or
Mm-hmm.
services, right, that are
Mm-hmm.
running on Mern, it's
Yeah.
expensive to migrate,
Correct.
to port over applications to another stack.
Yeah.
But Monique, my time is running out.
Okay. All right.
Um, I think we should schedule another one. I
Yeah.
think we should think about maybe doing this in the regular basis.
Yes. Correct.
We had very good questions.
Yeah.
Um, Next time, maybe we won't have as many technical glitches.
Yeah.
But
Correct.
from my end,
Yeah. As well as
and
from
then
my
hopefully Instagram also works the way
yeah.
it should be. So,
Yeah. So
but
that's fine. I
I
think
want
we'll
to
make an
thank.
announcement in the coming week when we can go live once again, right? And
Yes,
we should,
yes, and maybe start getting questions ahead of time, and that
yeah,
way we'll have them ready to fire away. Um,
correct.
I want to thank everybody who joined us. Thank you, Manik, for setting this up,
Yeah.
because really it was you who sort of drove this thing. So I really appreciated putting this together, and thank you for everyone on Instagram who joined. We appreciate the support, and same thing for anyone who's watching us on YouTube. Thank you for your support.
No,
And
I appreciate your time, Francisco, being here. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and our discussions go on in a very constructive direction.
yes,
So I really love having these conversations with you. So we'll probably schedule it in this coming week, and then we'll let everyone know. And thank you, everyone, for giving your precious time and contributing to this.
yeah. Thanks, everyone.
All right, see you then.
See
Talk to
you.
you guys later.
Bye bye.
Yeah, bye.